Hello, I'm Scott Soshnick.
And I'm Eben Novy-Williams, and this is the icy hot sports business podcast, the Sporticast.
All right, Kurt Badenhausen joins us. And Kurt, I'm going to tell tales out of school here. Did you notice Eben's enthusiasm dropped on the second delivery? It did. I wanted to see if he could do it. Truth be told, audience, that we had a little tech snafu, so we had to re-record just the first minute or so. I was concerned I was going to dip in my energy for the good conversation we had. But, Eben, you started low. That is not good.
I think the intro is less fun when I know exactly what I'm doing, and it's more fun for me when I'm making a decision right before we start.
Well, I understand, but, the great ones have to perform, and, the lights came on, and you did not perform.
That is true. Great one. Is that a allusion to what we're talking about here? Was that intentional?
No. Because when I hear great one, I think Michael Jordan, so I'm not sure really where you're...
What?
The great one.
Oh, hold on a second, Kurt. Wait in here.
I don't know.
Wait,
what
I
he's
actually. Now this is where my brain was ahead. I actually did that to see the reaction, and now
success.
Kurt was great. That was fantastic. Number 99, paging number 99. All right, so we joined Kurt because it is valuations time. This time it's the National Hockey League. We can put you on autopilot if you like. Tell us what you think fans need to know, top line stuff, and then we will drill down.
Well, first of all, Eben's a pro. That delivery was just as good second time around.
Such BS.
My favorite guest.
You know darn well he delivered much more energy on the first one. He was like, icy hot! And then we did a whole thing about trademark infringement and what product Shaq pitches, and we never even got to that. So
put it in the archives, yeah.
Yes.
Top line business is good in the NHL. Valuations up 29% on average, $1.31 billion. NHL's come a long way in a short amount of time. Teams generate $6.8 billion.
Wait, can I jump in with why?
Revenue.
What's the number one why? Why has the NHL come a long way in a short period of time?
A couple things have been going on. One, I think, is a recognition that franchises were undervalued for a long time, which we've heard about, and you're starting to see it in terms of the investors that are coming into the sport right now. So we're seeing prices, particularly on the bottom of the scale, sell for much higher than traditionally we had. A lot of the teams that were trading for the better part of a decade, they were trading for 2 to 4 times revenue, is what we saw. 10 transactions between 2011 and 2019, 2020. 8 of them sold between 2 and 4 times revenue.
So those are the smart buyers. Those are the smart investors.
Smart investors. Ottawa just sold for nearly 7 times revenue. We were seeing teams at the bottom. It was Carolina, Florida, Arizona. Seemingly every other year was changing hands. And I think there's a little bit more recognition in the marketplace as we've seen institutional investors come in and more money look at this asset class that we've been talking about for multiple years. That any seat at the table is pretty good. So, yes, would I rather be in New York or Chicago or Montreal? Sure. But Ottawa's not bad. Florida's okay. I'll take it. And so we're seeing that in the NFL, NBA, and I think it stands with the NHL as well.
Is this the scarcity value argument? Is that what it boils down to? They only have so many of them?
It's 100% scarcity value, and the entry price is so much better. So the pool of investors that is fishing NBA, NFL, really limited. You're talking $5 billion average in the NFL. NBA is probably $4 billion. So if you can get in, buy a majority control stake in a major U.S. sports league, and the valuations, $1 billion, 1.2, that's pretty good. And you can capture a lot of the same economics that you can in the NBA. You don't have the big TV contract, but you control your arena. If you're the New Jersey Devils, control the Prudential Center, which is just booking concerts left and right out of there and generating
Disney on Ice, baby. I say it's the suburban 4-wheel drive vehicles coming in every weekend to see what's playing. Prudential's
a top 10 arena in the world in terms of gross ticket revenue from concerts. So, the Devils capture that, and so they operate the building, and so those same economic opportunities. Again, you don't have the TV contract, although TV contracts in Canada are pretty good.
I was just going to say, if you add Turner and ESPN to what the deal is north of the border in Canada, you've got many $1 billion. That's a good nugget. from where you're starting.
Yeah, no, 100%. But you're talking about teams generating, $30 million a year from national TV compared to $300 million in the NFL. So it's different scale of things. But on the local level, those teams still have the same opportunity. Super passionate fan base who are willing to spend money at their arena. I mean, the arena drives these businesses. More than 70% of their revenues coming from the arena. So that's where teams can really differentiate themselves.
To add some numbers to this conversation about different sports, Kurt, I looked at your year-over-year increase in valuations. Last time you did Major League Baseball, 3% increase. Last time you did NBA, 16% increase. You just said it, NHL this year, 29% increase. So it's clear that the NHL valuations are growing at a clip that is faster than what you would think of as
how much of that was due to the Ottawa sale?
Sports number.
How much of that 29% is so Ottawa set the bar? It's a controlled stake sale.
Ottawa set a new bar, similar to what we saw in the NBA, where the sales for Charlotte, arguably, Charlotte, Milwaukee, just is raising that bottom tier of clubs, and so, again, we'll forget the Coyotes. Columbus we have at number 31, $880 million. So really we're seeing the biggest gains at the bottom. But we've seen transactions at the top as well. LP stakes in the Canadiens, the pension fund in Ontario buying into Maple Leaf Sports at a big number, which Maple Leaf Sports obviously owns the Maple Leafs, as well as the Raptors and Toronto
Very
FC.
well-named company. Hello, Larry Tannenbaum, saying hello.
Yes, Raptors Sports and Entertainment. Maybe if they do it all over, it'd be Raptors Sports and Entertainment. But probably not.
Jim Pilata wouldn't be happy with that.
There's a team here, Kurt. I think the answer is maybe nothing special, but the Carolina Hurricanes, 60% year-over-year increase in valuation. Is there something specific about what they're doing? I'm not sure if I've ever seen, in all of my years following your numbers, I'm not sure if I've ever seen a team get a 60% increase in valuation in year-over-year.
Tom Dundon genius.
NWSL.
Yes. Yeah, we probably should have dug into in the text, but I was writing long already and wanted to spare the editors beyond the 2,500 words I think we wrote
That's why we have
for the main story.
Yeah, that's why we're here. Tell us the story.
So Carolina, again, traditionally a bottom 5 franchise, and so 100% get a boost from that that threshold going up in terms of the stick value of an NHL franchise right now. But Carolina, their finances have turned the corner dramatically. I mean, they've built a very solid season ticket base. Looking at cutting off season ticket sales, I mean, they are a really strong market. We've heard for years, and you guys have watched this, hockey doesn't work in the South. All these franchises, it doesn't work. There's a lot of them having. I mean, Tampa, turned the corner a long time ago. Carolina is having a lot of success. Florida is having success. So we're seeing these again. Leave the Coyotes out of the conversation, but these other franchises are having a lot of success, and also in Carolina, and we talk about this all the time. I mean, in terms of related business, how you can capture revenue outside of the hockey team, just approved more than $400 million worth of renovations, which are going to happen in the building and go towards development around the arena. So that helps drive value for the franchise.
Someone recently did, I think it was ESPN, but did a Vegas Golden Knights documentary about the first couple of years and the championship and all that. And in the beginning of the documentary, Dave Hochman at MLB texted me about this. They're showing clips of media hating on the decision to move to Vegas. And one of the clips is me on Bloomberg Television. They chopped and screwed an interview that I had done about how attendance in the South.
This will never work, says Novy-Williams.
Almost literally, yeah. And I'm bulletin board material for how the national media apparently did not think Vegas was going to work, which is not something I ever said. But it's me spouting off attendance figures for the Coyotes and for the Panthers and for the Lightning, I think, as well. And maybe the Carolina Hurricanes were in there as well. But I thought that was funny. I immediately went to look at it and I was like, I don't look so good in this. But this interview is definitely cut up in a way, I think, to underscore the point in a way I did not mean it.
Yeah, he always throws an underscore in there. I hate that. But Kurt, I mean, can I let me ask you this. If I'm an owner of a team, let's say I own a hockey team. All right, I want to look at who's really firing on all cylinders. It's great. So I'm going to look at the Patriots, okay? So what do? They spend almost nothing on their building. Like, whatever, 300 plus million, right, for an NFL stadium? Fine. No big deal. I don't care if there's metal benches. It's uncomfortable. Doesn't matter. People are going to show up anyway. Then you buy the land around it. Then you develop it with bars and restaurants. So you give people a place to go before. You give people a place to go after. Then you tell your season ticket holders or whoever, hey, I'll pay you $50, $75 if you'll agree not to leave the stadium within the first hour after the game ends, right? So that kind of alleviates the egress. And then what are those people going to do with that money? They're going to go across the street to the bar and the restaurant that you own, and they're going to spend the money there and then some. So, I mean, look what Steve Cohen just announced, what he wants to do around Citi Field. Because what do you do at Citi Field? You show up before the game, you go, and then you leave. You have to have that customer as part of the day, before, after. Like, that's how you're going to really generate some significant revenue on these franchises. It can't just be the 3 hours or so that they're in the building, right?
Absolutely, and I think that maybe Jonathan Kraft would maybe take offense. They have sunk a few $100 million into the stadium over the last couple of years. Yeah,
but it's not a $1.5 billion MetLife, is what I'm saying. It's not $5 billion SoFi.
It is not.
They went on the bottom end of when they went shopping. They were like, we can go to page 6 of the brochure.
At the time, though, it was a very expensive building, but
hogwash.
The value, the cost to build an NFL stadium is up a lot over the past 20 years, 25 years for that matter. 100%, Scott, and the advantage of these places. So they are downtown, and if you can control that, in many cases they are downtown, and if you can control that immediate area around it and provide offerings. Edmonton Oilers, I mean, they've built it out way beyond just way beyond just around the arena. I mean, into office buildings and all sorts of stuff going on. But what they are doing is really trying to take advantage of right around that area for that game day experience and bring people down potentially on non-game days as well. So they just built a stage right outside of their arena where they're going to offer, where they've just kind of started ramping up in terms of offering events, going to offer more music events, and just scaling it to a different level than the big act that's going in the arena.
Kurt, I've said this on the show before, and Eben knows it, but I'm always marveling at when the focus group of one team, where we're up in the Boston area or somewhere near Foxborough, invariably between games, all right, where are we going to go to lunch? And everybody wants to go to Patriot Place, only because it's like Patriot Place and the stadium is there, and I doing what I do, I'm like, why are we going there? Like, and I mean, except for the Olive Garden. The Olive Garden is there. I got it. But other than that, like, why do I care that a restaurant is within spitting distance of a stadium where nothing's going on that I can see it, but they all want to go to Patriot Place? I just don't get it.
Well, that's why these teams are such successful businesses, because the affinity it is hard to match.
It's sticky. Yeah.
One of my big takeaways from the NFL Stadium series we did earlier this year was just how different it is if you own an NFL stadium, in terms of trying to get other events there versus what it is in an 18,000 seat arena. Right? There are NFL stadiums that do maybe 20 events a year, and
tops
12 of them are NFL events, right? And some of them are even fewer. Yeah. Whereas if you are a concert venue and you're downtown and you have 18,000 seats or whatever in the NHL or NBA, there's ones that are doing. Madison Square Garden has 300 probably. But yeah, the difference economics in this conversation when you're talking about a football team versus an NBA or an NHL team, which has an indoor arena, it's much smaller, it's way more accessible for most fans and also for a lot of acts. It makes a huge difference in the economics.
Let me spin this forward for you, Eben, though, in terms of on the larger scale, and I think how the economics are going to change, especially when the entry point is so high. Mm-hmm. When this new Washington football team Commanders Stadium gets built, I'm a betting man on the RFK site, but when that happens, I don't think you're going to see the model being 20 events a year. You're going to say, hey, Taylor Swift, we need you for 7. Hey, you too. Hey, whatever. Hey, can you take a break from the Sphere and come and do whatever? Mm-hmm. But I think the model is going to be a significant number of events at a huge 70,000, 80,000 seat outdoor venue.
So you think that has a dome or no?
No, I don't think it has a dome.
So automatically, if it doesn't have a dome, you're taking 6 months or so, 5 months.
I don't know. No, it means
not having.
No, it means you got to figure something out. No, it means maybe you have a winter festival. Like they do with Fenway. Maybe you do more monster truck. I don't know. I'm just saying I think the model is going to be big, more, fill it, use it.
Even Nashville, the new Titan Stadium, is going to be domed because even the weather there, they were like, we want to be year-round. And the only way to be year-round, even in Tennessee, is to have a dome on the stadium. So yeah, I think it's super interesting. And you're right, there's going to be – SoFi has a lot more events than what the Cincinnati Bengals do at Paycor or whatever the stadium's called now. But, yeah, I think the economics are different, and I hadn't thought about that enough, I don't think.
And by the way, my mic flag is missing. We had to take them all for a trip. So Kurt, I didn't want you to feel bad. Eben's got the pretty mic flag on. Mine's missing.
I think what you have to think about, though, I mean, there are only so many musical acts that can fill a 70,000, 80,000 person stadium. So 100% Taylor Swift can do it. U2 can do it. But the number is very limited.
Not me. You're not saying I can do it.
No.
Okay.
You can do 10,000.
But there are, I mean, the Prudential Center had 67 shows last year. Yep. There are a lot more acts that can fill 10,000, 15,000. But what the bigger stadium, the NFL stadiums, I think have to think about is these. You know, it doesn't have to be 75,000 people.
Yeah, you can do
40 a corporate. You can do a corporate event. You can do like people like being at. To your point,
as we said, right? They want to go to the Olive Garden.
Kids like doing it. Yeah. Executives like being it, and you can figure out something that's going on in a suite or a big conference space that holds 1,000 people. You know. That changes the dynamic in terms of where
I went to a bat mitzvah once at the old Giant Stadium, and to this day, it's like the only bat mitzvah I remember. To your point, Kurt, I was like, "This is amazing."
Did you get to do anything on the field? Like what?
We did not get to go on the field. It was up in like the essentially like the luxury suite area, but they turned the lights on the stadium. It was cool. It was like it was exactly the kind of thing that Kurt, a lot of people corporate wise would also want to do.
I don't think you were with Sportico yet, Kurt. So forgive me if you were. But we did an event a few years ago at Barclays Center. And our folks said, oh, you know, it's great. We're partnering with the Nets. It's going to be wonderful. At the end of the day, we're going to get to go on the court and play basketball and shoot and whatever. My knee jerk was like, so what? Who cares? Yeah. What do you mean we're going to go on the court? Like, this means nothing to me. Nothing to me. And this is a sports business conference. These are people who work in the industry. And man, oh man, Mr. Badenhausen, I could not have been more wrong. They were so excited to be on the court and playing horse. And I think we've got some photos of Novy-Williams taking some really awkward-looking shots. But, I mean, I just had to say I was so wrong. They loved it. And these are people who work in the industry. It didn't matter. It was a place they hadn't been, an experience they wanted, you know, an Instagram moment, whatever you want to say. Big hit. So, I mean, this is just on the grander scale to the general public. Any chance to touch and utilize the stadium. Yep. I mean, Green Bay's done that with all of they have indoor, out there. They've done that. They're trying to utilize Lambeau Field for far more than just football games. Yeah,
no, absolutely. That fan affinity is impossible to beat, and provides more opportunity. I mean, if these teams recognize they're not fully tapping into that fan affinity in terms of monetizing it, and you don't have to just be the people that are coming on game day, but there's so many other fans that just want to touch
just
the
look
experience.
At it. Yep, take the pictures. Yeah, and let me bring it back to the NHL, by the way, because I think, as you just said, it's sort of a lot of revenue generated from the building on game day, the whole thing. One of the assets that I think is so underutilized in the NHL, and if I owned a team, I would, remember how we say, Eben, that nobody really differentiates themselves really well? I would have, I'm telling you, my warm-up, you know how the players come out for their skate for warm-up and then they go back and for the game? That warm-up period, I would make that the biggest carnival festival for kids you'd ever seen. That means people have to come to the arena early, buy the cotton candy, buy the whatever. I would make sure all of my players understand it is part of your job while you are out there warming up. Every single one of you has to chuck 20 pucks into the crowd. Put it on your stick, throw it over, whatever. I would have those pucks not just be the black pucks that you use in practice. I would have it be with the game logos, you know, the team logos, the date, for like whatever the 0.2 cents a unit more it costs to do that. Fans showing up, more time, more engagement, more everything. I have yet to see a team that understands how to fully monetize and drive engagement during that warm-up period. The players, a lot of them don't have their helmets on. They can see, there's signs. You get those Sports Center moments where you read the sign, you do something, you high-five, you take a picture, whatever. I want you engaged, and I want the kids having fun. That is my first order of business as an NHL owner. I'm revamping my pregame.
Can we talk about the Coyotes for a second?
Uh-oh. We kept excluding the Coyotes. And I was just as you know, I was just in Arizona with Javier Gutierrez, friend of the program.
100%. And just looking at your numbers, Kurt, the gap between 31 and 32, the gap between the Coyotes and the Blue Jackets is essentially the same gap as the gap between number 31 and number 20 between the Blue Jackets and the Dallas Stars. They are an outlier valuation-wise at the bottom in a way that no other U.S. league has, unless I'm wrong, Kurt. I'm just curious what you think about the continued experiment there. It is a team that's financially, at least, in a weird stadium spot as well.
Weird. They don't have one.
There's so much rumor. There's so much talk about the Coyotes moving, being sold, whatever it is. I'm just curious what you think about, just when you dive into the numbers, about just how different the Coyotes business is than every other NHL team there is.
Yeah, 100%. The net revenue that we present is dramatic, more than $20 million lower. And the only reason it's that close is because they're by far receiving the biggest revenue sharing check, more than $30 million a year. If you were to strip that out, the gap is gigantic between them and the next lowest revenue team. Probably the hardest team to value, because there's so many balls in the air and potential scenarios what could happen. So that is really the slot level, or the stick value or slot to get into the league. But they're playing in a college arena, so
a small one too.
A small one,
Mullet Arena.
So the valuation question comes down to, if we're to move, it immediately is more valuable franchise, assuming it's moving into a city with an arena to play in, and going to be able to capture some of those revenues. And so the value, though, the value is going to be more than that, but how much of the current owner is going to capture? Because what's going to happen is the NHL is 100% going to want some sort of the other owners are going to want some sort of relocation fee, like we saw when Atlanta moved. And so what is that fee? Is it $100 million? Is it $200 million? Is it $300 million? So ultimately, this should be $1 billion
Quebec is
franchise.
worth at least $300 million.
But again, their current situation is very challenged, with revenues, again, before revenue sharing, well under $100 million a year, even including the national TV money that they're getting.
So now that we're near the end here, Eben, should we tell everybody sort of like the top five? Like, should we do that at least?
Yeah, go ahead.
We just launched it. Now,
Sure.
I'm doing it on my phone, as you can see here, Kurt. So I'm glad you included the logos, because if I had to see the print, it'd be very, very difficult for me at an advanced age. Maple Leafs number 1, followed by the Rangers, Les Habitants, Blackhawks, and Bruins. There's a lot of original 6 there, my friend. I'm sensing something.
Original 6, and new logo for the Bruins this year, celebrating 100 years.
Oh, okay. And 100 years. I think the Rangers are 3 years away from 100 years. Is that? I think we're coming up on there. That's going to be a nice opportunity for somebody there too. We're going to hear a lot about it. That would be my guess. Eben, your thoughts, because you're not a hockey guy.
There's a few things that jump out to me, like and this is true in a lot of leagues, but the best teams are not particularly high on this list, right? The three most recent teams to win Stanley Cup titles, unless I'm forgetting one. The Golden Knights are number 11 here. The Lightning are number 12. The Avalanche are number 15. It is every time you do these, Kurt, it's a good reminder to me that the Knicks can be the most valuable or the second most valuable team in the NBA, and the Maple Leafs can be the most valuable team in the NHL, even though they are historically bad from a winning titles perspective. Really just shows that the success on the field or on the ice or on the court is actually not always indicative of how valuable your team is.
100%, and the Cowboys in the NFL. As Cowboy fans will always
I was waiting to see who was going to jump on that one.
But what is nice about the NFL, and what is a plus for these smaller market teams, though, is you can buy one and compete. So because of the salary cap, because of revenue sharing, you can buy one and not have to lose $25 million a year and compete for a Stanley Cup. That is a more challenged situation in Major League Baseball. It certainly exists in the NFL, where everybody can compete because of the cap. And in the NBA, what's nice is, versus the NHL, I mean, the NHL has its advantages versus the NBA is the NBA owners can just blow by it, the cap, as we've seen with the Clippers, the Golden State Warriors. NHL owners, they're protected from themselves. You just can't do that, and so you can't just spend your way into that kind of luxury tax territory.
Players hate that stuff because during collective bargaining, you always hear agents and players will say what the owners are looking for is an idiot-proof system.
Yep. Yeah.
How about the other direction? The San Jose Sharks have had a very rough start.
San Jose Sharks. They won. They won yesterday.
Season. They did win their first. I believe their first game.
I'm looking for my logos. Eben, help me. Where's San Jose?
They're not as far down as I think maybe people might think. But if this continues to be a historically bad season for the Sharks, their attendance is
22.
I think it's the second lowest in the NHL, behind the Coyotes for obvious reasons. How much does a catastrophically bad on ice performance in a single year affect valuations, or do you think next year, if they have one of the worst seasons in NHL history, that they will rise kind of roughly commensurate with all the other NHL teams?
Well, Phoenix should be rising. Sorry, had to do it. Sorry.
Just ignore that, Kurt.
San Jose we have up this year, and it's probably just a reflection. I mean, they're up multiple places, but those teams are really clumped together. So the percentage gain, maybe the rise in number of spots, just because of how many are clumped together, isn't really reflective of how bad they've been this year. We've bumped them up as a reflection of just how much money is in that market, and even though they are so bad, a new owner would be kind of chomping at the bit, because new owners can always think they can fix things. They always come in and they have better ideas. So a historically bad year in a market like that has so much wealth in it should not have a long-term detriment to the value. Again, if you have a 2, 3, 4 year run like that and revenues fall off a cliff, and then you have to rebuild that fan base, that's where you really run into problems. But the Bay Area, New York, Chicago, Boston, I mean, these areas are swimming in so much money we see this all the time. If there's only one whale shows up at the auction, price doesn't go that much higher. But 2, 3, 4 people want this asset, that's where you see valuations just skyrocket. And certain small markets, you're just limited on how many people would show up at an auction.
All right, Kurt, we can end the NHL part of the discussion on this. I'm curious, how tight is the Maple Leafs hold on the top spot, right? I mean, we're looking at $200 million clear of the Rangers, $400 million clear of the Montreal Canadiens. But how tight is that stranglehold? Would you see more opportunity for them, for the Rangers? Montreal, if you're looking 15, 20 years down the road, which one wins the race?
God, it's hard to bet against a single market team in Toronto's biggest city. It's more than 50% larger than Montreal. The population, so much wealth in it.
Toronto versus
Rangers
New York.
are great.
Yeah, Toronto versus New York.
No, it's hockey in Canada. We saw it in the Ottawa. We saw it in the Ottawa sale. I mean, Ottawa is
one of the national sports. Yeah,
it is one of the national sports, and obviously we can see how you can optimize revenue. They control an incredibly valuable building that runs through a ton of events. Their lock on the top spot, I mean, it is unanimous. Everybody I talk to, I mean, they don't take anybody over Toronto. And so I think, in the same way the Cowboys have the top spot in the NFL, the Yankees are locked in MLB. I think Toronto's solidified its hold at the top spot in the NHL to the same degree.
I would love to see the Maple Leafs and the Rangers just hit the market at the same time. Just forget about all
Sportico.
Forget about the principles of it all. Forget about the underpinnings, just the trophy asset, the desire, the ego, the everything into play, and see how high those go. That would be fun.
I mean, those are two just crazy trophy assets that are very hard to value because. And they don't trade either,
Right.
And it's a once in a generation chance to buy this. You're not probably get another chance for 30, 40 years, and so the sky's the limit for those two franchises in particular. I would say, yeah.
Eben, I will leave it up to you. Do you want to end the show there, or do you want to continue with your scoop from the NWSL since Kurt's here as well. Oh, look at him. He's like, I want to talk about my work. I want to talk about my work. What is it? Yes, let us discuss my good work. Go ahead. Let's
do 2 minutes. News that Sportico broke this week. Kurt, the OL Reign, one of the NWSL teams, the team in Seattle, one of the 2 teams that is currently in the market about to be sold. The Seattle Sounders of MLS are in advanced talks to buy the OL Reign. The thing that jumps out to me on this, we say it all the time, it feels like everyone that buys sports teams now is someone that already owns a sports team in some ways. These like super owners or the collection of assets because of synergies, because they are already exposed to and understand the asset class that we're talking about. I think that's one of the things that jumps out to me. But you just did NWSL valuations as well. The numbers in that league are crazy. What do you make of, if this deal happens, the Sounders and the OL Reign going under the same ownership group?
100%. There's a lot of synergies in there. These guys have had a look under the hood on the finances already in the Seattle market, and what they have to think about, and maybe there's a long-term solution here. Playing in Lumen Field, playing in the Seahawks is great. You drive a lot of attendance, but do you want to control your own destiny? So I think soccer-specific stadium with those 2 clubs co-tenants headlining it would makes a ton of sense. You're gonna take a hit on your total attendance because you're not going to build a 40,000 seat stadium, but being able to control all the economics in there makes a lot of sense. So having 2 teams under the same umbrella seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, I would think you get a peek at biz dev and say, it's not all that sophisticated. Roll it up into what we have already, and we can make a real go of this.
Yeah, it's funny. The other team that's for sale right now is the Portland Thorns, and they are being unwound from the MLS team in their market, right? So the buyer of the Portland Thorns needs to deal with the idea that you're losing the support and the overlap of staffing and stuff that you're talking about, Scott, that comes with the Thorns and the Timber together. And then the other NWSL team that's for sale is essentially being absorbed into that scenario. It's an interesting kind of push and pull there, back and forth. All
right, close it out. First of all, I'll thank Kurt. We love having Badenhausen on. Well, shit, we're gonna make T-shirts that say Kurt 100% Badenhausen. We'll get it out there.
And you can follow him at K Badenhausen on.
Hey, he came prepared.
Twitter.
Good for you.
Came prepared. I know Kurt's off the top. You can follow Scott Soshnick on Twitter at Soshnick. I am Eben Novy-Williams. You can follow me at Novy_Williams. The Sporticast is produced by Aaron Greenewald. Thank you very much to Aaron. Sportico's digital media editor, Cora Veltman, would like you to know that you can follow the show at Sporticast, which is the hub of the Sportico Media Network.
All right.